Please comment where you are watching in the world. I never thought I'd end up dating someone like Corvin. Not because he was intimidating or anything like that. Actually, when I first met him, he seemed like the most relaxed, low-pressure guy on the planet. It was that kind of easy, quiet charisma that draws you in without trying too hard. But if I've learned anything since then, it's that danger rarely shows up in obvious ways. Sometimes it wears a hoodie, tells good jokes, and texts you memes until you feel like you're safe. And by the time you realize you're not, it's already too late. We met on an app one barely used. I was bored lying on my couch, thumbing through profiles while reruns played in the background. I wasn't looking for anything serious, just killing time. We started talking. It was easy. He was funny, not in a loud, attention-grabbing way, but dry and thoughtful. The kind of guy who sends you a picture of a raccoon holding a donut at 2 a.m. with the caption "Me." We exchanged playlists, talked about obscure movies. He didn't ask for photos, didn't push for anything flirty, just talked. I liked that. After a few days, he asked if I wanted to meet. He suggested a dive bar just outside the city. Not a scene, he said, but they have the best fries in the county. I agreed. The bar was gritty but charming, neon lights buzzing overhead, dusty jukebox in the corner, and mismatched chairs that looked borrowed from a garage sale. I showed up early, a little nervous. Corvin arrived 5 minutes late, smelling like clean laundry and tobacco. He wore a dark green hoodie and black jeans, and his smile was exactly like his photos, soft, a little crooked on the left side. We grabbed drinks and a basket of fries. Talked for 3 hours. I remember thinking, this might actually be something. He was smart, but not show-offy. He listened. He laughed at my jokes without making it seem performative. There was a quiet confidence to him, like someone who didn't need to prove anything. But even then, something felt off. Not in a way I could name. Just a flicker in the back of my mind. The way he kept checking over his shoulder every time the front door opened. The fact that his phone never left his pocket, screen side down. I told myself I was being paranoid. The next few weeks flew by. We saw each other every few days, dinner, late-night drives, lazy Sundays binge-watching weird documentaries. We didn't talk about labels, but we were definitely dating. I started staying over at his place more often. That's when things started to change. Corvin lived in a spotless apartment on the edge of downtown. Too clean, actually. The furniture was sparse. No books, no decorations, no clutter. Just a black leather couch, a glass coffee table, and a bed with gray sheets that looked like they belonged in a catalog. The only thing on the walls was a large canvas painting in the living room, abstract swirls of crimson and black. I didn't think much of it until one night I bumped into the frame while we were rearranging the couch cushions. It shifted. Behind it, I saw the edge of a keypad safe built into the wall. "Don't poke around," he said too quickly. I wasn't, I lied. He didn't smile. Just adjusted the painting and walked into the kitchen. I sat there, heart racing. It wasn't just the safe. It was the way he said it. Flat. Cold. Like a switch had flipped. That was the first time I felt afraid. Still, I didn't walk away. Not then. I told myself he was just private. Maybe he had a troubled past. Maybe it was a gun safe or old documents. I didn't want to be the kind of person who jumped to conclusions. But the signs kept piling up. There were visitors, always men, in and out of his apartment at weird hours. They never stayed long. One would come in with a small duffel bag. Another would leave with a thick envelope. Corvin never introduced them. They barely spoke, just nodded at each other and disappeared. When I asked about it, he shrugged. "Work stuff." "What kind of work?" I asked. "Consulting," he said. "For?" He smiled. "People who don't ask too many questions." That should have been my cue. But I didn't leave. One afternoon, I was sitting outside a cafe waiting for him when I noticed a black car parked across the street. It was idling, engine running, but no one got out. The windows were tinted pitch black. I couldn't see the driver clearly, but I caught a glimpse, just a silhouette, watching me through the rearview mirror. When Corvin finally showed up 10 minutes later, the car was gone. "You okay?" he asked. "Yeah," I lied. But my fingers were shaking. That night, I stayed at my own place. The turning point came 3 weeks later. I was in his apartment, looking for a phone charger. He had a drawer in his living room that he always kept locked, but that night, it was slightly ajar. Curiosity got the better of me. Inside were bundles of cash, neatly stacked, wrapped with rubber bands. Probably tens of thousands. My breath hitched. I closed the drawer quietly and sat back down. When Corvin came out of the shower, I pretended nothing was wrong, but my mind was spinning. I didn't sleep that night. The next day, I started distancing myself. I made excuses, said I was busy with work. But Corvin noticed. He started texting more, calling, asking where I was, who I was with. His tone changed, less casual, more clipped. "Don't disappear on me," he said once, and I couldn't tell if he was joking. One night, I was at his place when there was a loud banging on the door. Corvin jumped up, grabbed his phone, and started yelling into it. I heard phrases like shorted delivery and wrong drop point. Two men burst in. One bald, the other with a facial scar. They looked like they hadn't slept in days. The air was thick with tension. I sat frozen on the couch while they argued in low, angry voices. Corvin never raised his voice. He just stared them down until they left. Afterward, he looked at me and said, "Maybe you should stay away for a while." "I think that's a good idea," I whispered. That was the last time I saw him in person. I spent the next few days in a fog. I blocked his number, deleted the app, turned off my phone more often than not. But even then, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I saw the black car again, parked a block from my apartment. Then it was gone. A week later, I got a call from a blocked number. I didn't answer. Then came the news report, a drug bust downtown. Photos of cash, weapons, and pills spread across a table like trophies. The article mentioned a network of dealers. One name stood out, someone known as C, still at large. Corvin. They hadn't found him. He was gone. No trace. I wanted to feel relief. But I didn't. Because if Corvin was still out there, it meant he could come back. And if he knew I'd seen too much, if he thought I might talk. I changed the locks on my apartment. Started carrying pepper spray. I told a few close friends what happened, but I left out the worst parts. I didn't want them to know how deep I'd been dragged into something I couldn't name. I kept seeing his face in crowds, hearing his voice in my dreams, wondering how someone could be so careful, so calculated, and still manage to feel so real. I used to think the scariest part of dating apps was the awkward small talk or the inevitable ghosting. Maybe the occasional unsolicited photo or the guy who thinks Netflix and chill is a personality trait. But that was before Aaron. Before I learned that the real nightmare doesn't come with warning signs or red flags. Sometimes it comes in silence. He messaged me first. "Top 3 worst movies you've ever seen but secretly loved." I laughed. It was clever without trying too hard. I replied, and we started talking. The conversation was easy. He was funny, a little awkward, but charming in a way that felt safe. We messaged for a few days, nothing intense, just casual back and forth. He asked if I wanted to meet, but I wasn't feeling it. I said, "You seem cool, but I'm not really in a place to date right now." He replied, "No worries. Stay weird." I thought that was the end of it, but it wasn't. The next morning, I got a message from him. Just a waving hand emoji. I ignored it. Then another message later that night. "How's your day?" I didn't respond. The next day, another message. Still thinking about our movie talk. "You ever watch that one about the killer toaster?" I muted the conversation. Then he started calling. Not constantly, just once or twice a day. Always at odd hours, 2:13 a.m., 11:47 p.m., 5:06 a.m. I never answered, and he never left a voicemail. Just missed calls from unknown. I blocked him on the app. Unmatched. Deleted our message history. I thought that would be enough. But the next day my phone rang again, same random time, same silence on the other end. I answered once, thinking maybe it was a glitch or someone else. "Hello?" Nothing. No breathing. No noise. Just dead air. I hung up. The silent calls kept coming. At first, I thought it was a coincidence. My phone had been weird before. Glitches happen, right? But then the text started. Messages with no content, just blank bubbles. Sometimes a single period. Sometimes random symbols. Once, an empty message with a timestamp and nothing else. I started getting anxious every time my phone buzzed. Then one night, I got a message that changed everything. It was a screenshot of my location. Not just the city or general area, my exact street, building number, and apartment unit. My heart dropped. I knew it was real because I'd just gotten home, and the coordinates matched perfectly. I stared at my screen for what felt like forever. Then I turned off my location services, deleted the app entirely, and put my phone in airplane mode. I didn't sleep that night. I kept checking the windows, the locks, the shadows under the door. I didn't tell anyone at first. I felt ridiculous. How do you explain something like that without sounding paranoid? Hey, remember that guy I talked to for like 3 days? I think he's tracking me through my phone. It sounded crazy, even in my own head. But the messages kept coming. New numbers each time. New apps. Sometimes I'd get a message on a platform I hadn't used in years. LinkedIn, Pinterest, even a forgotten Tumblr account from college. Always the same pattern: silence, symbols, dots, or just the word close. I tried resetting my phone. Wiped it clean. Changed my SIM card. Bought a second-hand burner phone, and kept my real one off most of the time. But it didn't stop. One afternoon, I was sitting in a coffee shop near my office, trying to get some work done, when my phone buzzed. I checked the screen. New number. One image. It was a photo of me, taken from outside the shop window, looking in. I was sipping coffee, head down, completely unaware. My stomach twisted. I looked up, scanned the street, the sidewalk, every face. But no one was looking at me. No one stood out. It was like the photo had been taken by a ghost. I showed it to the barista. She didn't recognize the man I described. She hadn't seen anyone standing outside, taking pictures. I went to the police. They were sympathetic. Took down my statement. I showed them the texts, the photos, the call logs. But without a name or direct threat, they couldn't do much. Keep your phone off. Stay with friends. Let us know if it escalates. That was it. I went home and sat in my apartment, lights off, heart hammering. It wasn't just fear, it was helplessness. The feeling of being watched, followed, studied. But never touched. Never confronted. Like someone was playing a game I didn't understand, and I was the only one who didn't know the rules. That night, I got another message. This time, it was a video. It was short, just 10 seconds. It showed my apartment door. From the hallway. The camera zoomed in on the doorknob. Then cut to black. I moved out 3 days later. New place. New number. No social media. I only told a few people where I was. I stopped using dating apps altogether. I bought blackout curtains. Installed a security system. Started carrying a pocket knife. For a while, things got quiet. But then the messages started again. Different number. Just one word. Found. No photo this time. No threat. Just that word. Like he was reminding me that I was never really out of his reach. I still don't know how he did it. I never gave him my full name. Never shared my address. Never clicked on any sketchy links. I didn't download anything. I didn't overshare. I followed all the rules. And it didn't matter. Because Aaron, or whatever his real name is, wasn't just some obsessive guy who couldn't take a hint. He was methodical, patient, invisible. I've thought about going completely offline. No phone, no computer, no digital footprint. But it's not realistic. I have a job, a life. And even if I disappeared, would it matter? He found me once. He could do it again. Sometimes I wonder if I'm the only one. If Aaron's done this to others. If there's a pattern, a trail, a network of digital footprints he's been following. Or maybe I was just the unlucky one who said the wrong thing to the wrong person. I don't date anymore. I barely trust my own devices. I flinch when my phone rings. I check every unknown number against burner phone databases. I keep a log of every message, every call, every shadow. And I still sleep with the lights on. Because silence isn't just silence anymore. It's a warning. I don't even know where to begin. I still don't understand what happened. I've gone over it again and again, trying to make sense of something that refuses to fit into any version of reality I've known. So I'll just start from the last clear moment I remember. I was sitting in a booth at a small cafe downtown, waiting for Leora. We'd been talking for a few days on a dating app one rarely used, one of those niche ones for creative types. I signed up on a whim after a friend dared me to. I wasn't looking for anything serious. I wasn't even looking for anything casual. Mostly I was bored, and Leora was interesting. Her messages were thoughtful, weird in the best way. We talked about obscure films, the way certain smells bring back memories, and the merits of sleeping with the window open. She wasn't trying to impress me. She felt real. I told my roommate I was going to meet her, and I actually meant it, not just in the physical sense, but like I was on the verge of discovering something rare. We agreed to meet at a cafe I'd never been to, tucked between a bike repair shop and a laundromat. It was a weird little corner of the city I rarely visited, but it looked safe enough. I got there 10 minutes early and grabbed a booth in the back. It was the kind of place with mismatched furniture and chalkboard menus. I was sipping a lukewarm Americano when she walked in. Leora looked exactly like her photos. Soft features, short dark hair tucked behind her ears, and that same wrinkled gray sweatshirt. She smiled when she saw me, the kind of smile that makes you feel like you've already known someone for years. "Hey," she said, sliding into the booth across from me. "Hey," I replied, trying to play it cool while my heart thumped like I was 15 again. We talked for hours. About nothing and everything. She told me about a bookstore where the owner lets you take one book for free if you promise to write a poem inside the cover. I told her about the time I broke my wrist ice skating in July, long story. Her laugh was soft and raspy, like it had been used often. She played with the edge of a napkin while she listened, folding it into tiny triangles. At some point, the sun dipped behind the buildings and shadows stretched across the floor. She looked at her phone and said she had to go, but that she'd message me later. I watched her walk out, watched her climb into a rideshare, and wave through the window. That was the last time I saw her. When I woke up the next morning, I had one of those headaches that feel like your brain is wrapped in gauze. I was on a couch I didn't recognize, in a room that smelled like bleach and artificial citrus. The furniture was bland, beige cushions, a coffee table with nothing on it but a water bottle and a book with a blank cover. No pictures, no posters, no clutter. It looked like a display unit pretending to be a real apartment. I sat up too fast. My head throbbed. I reached for my phone, but it wasn't on the coffee table. It wasn't in my pockets either. I checked under the cushions, behind the couch, in the kitchen drawers, nothing. My bag was gone. My keys were gone. I wasn't hurt, but my body felt heavy like I'd been sedated. Every thought came slowly, like it had to fight through fog to reach me. The blinds were drawn, but a sliver of light told me it was morning. Maybe mid-morning. I opened the front door, no chain, no lock from the inside. The hallway outside was empty. I didn't recognize the building. Everything felt wrong. Eventually, I found my phone in a drawer in the bedroom, turned off. When I powered it on, everything was normal except for one thing. My entire chat history with Leora was gone. Erased. Like she'd never existed. Her profile was gone from the app too. No trace, no old messages, no record of our date. I called my roommate, my hands shaking. He picked up on the second ring. "Dude, where the hell were you last night?" he asked. "You said you were grabbing coffee, and then you just disappeared." "I don't know," I said, and I meant it. I told him everything I could remember. The cafe. Leora. Waking up in the strange apartment. He thought I'd been drugged. Maybe I had. But nothing felt stolen. I still had my wallet. No charges on my cards. Nothing was missing, just time and her. I went to the police. Filed a report. Described her, the cafe, the rideshare, the apartment. But without evidence of a crime, no injuries, no theft, they couldn't do much. They were polite but dismissive. One officer suggested I might have just drunk too much and blacked out. I hadn't had a single drink. I returned to the cafe a few days later. The same barista was there. I asked if she remembered me. She said she did. "You were sitting alone for like an hour," she told me. "No, I was with someone," I said. "A woman. Short hair. Gray sweatshirt. We were in the back booth." She frowned. "You were alone." I walked out feeling like I was losing my mind. I started looking into the apartment. Traced the address from the rideshare history on my phone. But there was nothing listed. No rental, no tenant record. Just an empty space in a building that was supposedly under renovation. I told a few people what happened. Some believed me. Most didn't. One friend said maybe I'd had a psychotic break. Another thought it was a prank. My roommate said it was probably someone running a scam that didn't go all the way, maybe trying to get into my phone or clone my data. But none of that explained how she knew so much about me. How she remembered the exact quote from a poem I posted online 5 years ago. How she knew my favorite film was one I'd only ever mentioned once, in a private message to someone else. I started to wonder if Leora had been watching me long before we matched. I deleted the app, changed my passwords, turned off every location setting on my phone. But it didn't help. The fear wasn't about someone breaking in anymore. It was about what had already gotten in. A few weeks later, I received a message from an unknown number. Just a single photo, me sitting in the cafe, taken through the window from outside. I was leaning forward, smiling like I was talking to someone. But the booth across from me was empty. I stared at that photo for a long time. Then I deleted it. I couldn't sleep for 3 nights after that. We matched on a dating app one wasn't even taking seriously. I'd had a few failed relationships, a couple of awkward dates, and my expectations were buried somewhere below sea level. But Talia was different, or at least she seemed to be. Her photos weren't overdone. No filters, no duck lips. Just her smiling with a dog in one, reading in another, and sitting on a rooftop with a coffee mug in the third. Her bio was short but clever. Good at bad karaoke. Fluent in movie quotes. Looking for someone who won't ghost at brunch. We started chatting. She was funny. Sharp. Could match my sarcasm beat for beat. Our conversations weren't just about music and hobbies. They had depth. She asked real questions, remembered the small stuff, and actually listened when I answered. After a few days, we met up. We kept it simple. A walk through the park, coffee from a street vendor, then sitting on a bench as the sun dipped lower behind the skyline. In person, she was even more magnetic. She talked with her hands, laughed easily, and had this way of looking at you when you spoke, like she was really there. I hadn't felt seen like that in years. The first few dates were great. Normal. Comfortable. We watched movies at my place, cooked dinner together, even went thrift shopping one weekend. It felt like we were building something, not too fast, not too slow. Just right. Then everything flipped. It started with a question, innocent on the surface. Are you still talking to other people on the app? I said no. Because I wasn't. I'd unmatched everyone else once things with her started feeling real. I figured that was the respectful thing to do. She nodded, smiled, and said, cool. Just wondering. That night, she stayed over. We watched a movie, fell asleep on the couch, and in the morning, she kissed me goodbye like everything was fine. But within 48 hours, my world started to unravel. It began with a message from a woman I didn't know. It popped up on my Instagram, then again on Facebook. Hey, just a heads up, you should be careful. Talia sent me screenshots of stuff you said to her. Not okay, man. I blinked at the message for a full minute. Screenshots? I asked what she was talking about. She sent me one. It showed a chat thread, my name, my profile photo, and a string of messages I never sent. Sexual stuff. Aggressive. Manipulative. At first, I thought it was a mix-up. Maybe someone was impersonating me. Maybe it was an old account I forgot about. But the messages looked like they came from my current profile. Same username. Same photo. Same bio. Then the video leaked. It was on a Reddit thread I got linked to by a friend. A short clip titled, "This is what you're up against, ladies." It was me, sitting on my bed talking, saying things I couldn't remember ever saying. The lighting was weird. My voice sounded slightly off, but the words were unmistakable. I was admitting to things I never did. It looked real, but it wasn't. The video had been edited cleverly, spliced together from clips I'd sent Talia on Snapchat or during FaceTime calls. Casual stuff where I was joking, venting, talking freely. She'd cut it all together, rearranged the order, and changed the context. I tried reaching out to her. She didn't answer. Then she blocked me. I went back through our messages. Nothing controversial, nothing I'd regret. But then I realized she had everything. Voice memos. Scamshots. Old photos. Casual banter that could be twisted. She'd built a library of my words and expressions. I contacted the app's support team, reported her, sent them the video, the screenshots, the messages I received from strangers. Their reply? We're looking into it. Please be patient. But nothing happened. Meanwhile, my reputation was falling apart. People I barely knew started messaging me, accusing me, calling me names. Friends I'd known for years stopped responding to my texts. My boss pulled me into his office and said someone had sent an anonymous email with disturbing content about me. I had to explain that I was being targeted, that it was all fake. He didn't say it, but I could see it in his eyes. He wasn't sure if he believed me. I started feeling like a ghost in my own life. Like I'd been replaced by a version of me I couldn't control. I went through all my devices, checked for spyware, changed passwords, factory reset my phone. But it didn't matter. The damage was already done. And then she vanished. One day, her number stopped working. Her social media went dark. The app removed her profile. Either she deleted it or they finally acted. But by then it was too late. I tried to track her down, searched for her full name, ran background checks, even hired a cheap online investigator. Nothing came up. It was like she'd never existed outside the app. It's been months. Some of the rumors died down. Some people forgot. But not everyone. Every now and then, someone I haven't talked to in a while brings it up. Hey, Didn't you have some drama with that girl from the app? I never know what to say. I still don't know why she did it. Revenge? Boredom? Was it a game to her? Was I just a target she picked at random? Or had she done this before? I think about that sometimes, about how easy it was for her to destroy me digitally. How she gathered my words and gestures, reshaped them into a weapon, and walked away without leaving a trace. When you hear a story about a creepy neighbor, you always assume it happened to someone else, someone who ignored warning signs, someone who lived in a sketchy part of town, someone who didn't trust their gut. I used to think that too, until it happened to me. The irony? I matched with Merrick on a dating app while sitting in my apartment, completely unaware that he lived just 2 floors above me. It started innocently enough. I was scrolling late one night after finishing a long shift and couldn't sleep. His profile was short and kind of cryptic. Music, night drives, black coffee, and people who know when to be quiet. His photos were dark and moody. Him on a fire escape, playing guitar in dim lighting, and one where he was looking away from the camera, cigarette in hand. It gave off a brooding, artsy vibe, which usually wasn't my type. But something about the way he wrote his bio caught my eye. It felt deliberate. I swiped right. We matched instantly. Less than a minute later, he messaged, "You look like you sleep with the window open." I respect that. It was a weird opener, but I laughed. We started talking. He was clever, quick with responses, and had a dry humor that I found kind of addictive. He asked questions nobody else did. What song makes you feel like you're floating? What do you smell when you're anxious? What kind of silence do you like? We talked late into the night for several days. Then he asked if I wanted to hang out in person. I hesitated, said maybe, and he surprised me by asking which building I lived in. I told him, and he replied, "No way. I'm in the same one. 7B. I lived in 5C. At first, it felt like a weird, exciting coincidence. I'd never seen him in the building, but I'd only been living there a few months, and people tend to keep to themselves in our complex. I agreed to meet. He came down to my place that Friday night, brought a bottle of wine and a playlist on his phone that he called music for long glances across dim living rooms. It was pretentious, but also kind of charming. He was taller than I expected, quiet in person but confident. The conversation flowed easily, and after a couple of glasses of wine, we ended up on the couch, limbs tangled, music low in the background. Nothing happened beyond a few heated kisses and some close breathing, but I remember feeling his hand on my lower back, just under my shirt, and how his fingers moved like he was trying to memorize me. It was intense. When he left later that night, without pushing for more, I found myself strangely disappointed. We started seeing each other casually after that. He'd text late at night, and I'd find myself opening the door in pajamas, letting him in without much thought. He was respectful at first, never stayed the night, never touched anything in my apartment without asking. But he was also observant. Too observant. He started commenting on things I hadn't mentioned. "Did you sleep in the blue shirt last night? You looked peaceful." I hadn't posted a photo of it. I'd worn it to bed alone. "You changed your shampoo. The coconut one smells better." He hadn't been over in a week, and I never told him. I brushed it off. Maybe he was just perceptive. Maybe I was overthinking it. But then I started noticing small changes in my apartment. A drawer slightly open when I knew I'd closed it. My favorite mug in the wrong cabinet. The window in the bathroom unlatched. I tried to convince myself I was being paranoid, that it was forgetfulness. But one night, I came home late from work and found my bedroom light on. I never left it on. I asked Merrick if he'd come by. He said no. Said he'd been at a friend's place all night. I wanted to believe him, but my gut was screaming. So I tested him. I placed a piece of thread on the inside edge of my apartment door, barely visible, taped in a way that it would fall if the door opened. Then I left for a weekend trip to visit my sister. When I returned, the thread was gone. Nothing was missing. Nothing was damaged. But someone had been inside. I changed my locks that night. I stopped answering Marek's messages. I told him I was overwhelmed with work, that I needed space. He didn't push, but he didn't disappear either. He started bumping into me more often. In the elevator, in the laundry room, in front of the building, just as I was heading out. Always alone. Always smiling like nothing was wrong. "You've been quiet," he'd say. "I miss our late night talks." I'd nod, fake a smile, and get away as quickly as possible. Then things escalated. One night, around 2 a.m., I woke up to a sound. Not loud. Just a soft click, like a door latch. I sat up, heart racing. My apartment was dark, silent. I crept to the hallway and flipped the light on. The front door was closed, locked, but the chain was hanging loose. I always latched the chain at night. I called the building manager the next day and asked if anyone had accessed my unit. He said no. I asked if there were spare keys in circulation. He said only the maintenance team had them. I changed the locks again, bought a door camera, started sleeping with a bat next to my bed. The next time I saw Merrick, he was sitting on the steps out front, smoking a cigarette. He looked up as I approached and smiled like we were old friends. "You look tired," he said. "Still not sleeping well?" My skin prickled. I didn't reply, just walked past him, heart pounding. A few nights later, I checked the footage from the door camera. I'd been reviewing it every morning just in case. At 3:12 a.m., the night before, the footage showed the hallway outside my door. Empty at first. Then Merrick appeared. He stood in front of my door for nearly 7 minutes. Didn't knock. Didn't try to open it. Just stood there, breathing, listening. Then he leaned toward the door, so close his breath fogged the lens, and whispered something. I couldn't hear it, but I rewound the video a dozen times, watching his lips. "Let me in." I filed a police report the next day. They said there wasn't enough for a restraining order, no break-in, no physical threat. Just weird behavior. They advised me to document everything. Stay alert. Avoid contact. I considered moving, but rent was cheap and I had nowhere else lined up. I installed more locks, added cameras inside the apartment, and started carrying a small knife when I left the building. I told friends. I told my boss. I made sure people knew where I was at all times. And Merrick? He vanished. No more texts. No more bumping into him. His apartment upstairs went quiet. I thought maybe he'd moved out. Maybe the police scared him. Maybe I was free. Then one night, I had a dream, vivid, disorienting. I was in my apartment, but nothing was in its right place. The walls were too close, the air too still. I could hear breathing, but not my own. I woke up drenched in sweat. Got up to splash water on my face. As I walked past the living room, I noticed something strange. One of the couch pillows was out of place. A small thing, but I knew I hadn't touched it. I checked the camera footage again. Nothing. No movement. No alerts. Then I realized the camera only covered the front door. Whoever had been in the apartment had come through the window. I moved 2 weeks later. Different city. Different job. New phone number. Knew everything. I've always been careful online. I use strong passwords. I don't click on suspicious links. I keep my social media locked down and rarely post anything personal. But none of that stopped what happened. I matched with Soren. I remember because I was curled up on the couch, eating leftover curry, and half watching a crime documentary I'd seen 3 times already. His profile popped up, and something about it made me pause. He didn't look like the others. His photos weren't polished or curated. One was black and white, taken from across a street. He was looking down, hands in his coat pockets. Another was a close-up of a bookshelf with a coffee mug balanced precariously on the edge. His bio was short. I like silence between songs. Show me your dimmest light. I didn't know what that meant, but I swiped right. We matched instantly. His first message came seconds later. You have the kind of face that makes a secret want to stay hidden. I should have known that was a red flag, but I was intrigued, flattered, curious. We started talking. He was sharp, articulate, and uncomfortably perceptive. He asked questions that felt more like riddles. What's a memory you'd protect even if it wasn't yours? What's the lie you've told so many times it became true? It was strange, but addictive. I felt like I was being pulled into a story, and I wanted to know how it ended. We didn't talk about normal things, not at first. No small talk about jobs or favorite snacks. Just long, late-night messages that felt like poetry and puzzles. He spoke in metaphors. Made me feel like I was more than just another swipe. Like I was something rare, something he'd been looking for. After 3 days of messaging, he asked for a photo. Not one you've posted. Show me how you look when no one's watching. I hesitated. Then I sent a picture. Me in bed, hair messy, no makeup, lit by the glow of my laptop screen. It felt honest. Intimate. He replied, You look like a secret someone forgot to bury. Again, weird. But it made me feel seen. We moved to texting. Then to voice notes. Soren had a low, smooth voice, measured, deliberate. He didn't talk fast. He made you wait for his words, and when they came, They hung in the air like fog. After a week, he sent me a photo of himself, shirtless in soft morning light, tattoos I hadn't seen in his profile, a long scar down his left side. "For you only," he said. I didn't ask questions. I just replied with a heart emoji. Then we started video calling. The first time, he kept his camera off, said his lighting was bad, that he looked like a ghost with allergies. I laughed. We talked for an hour. He listened more than he spoke, but when he did speak, it was always with this strange gravity. The second time, he turned his camera on, but only briefly. The image was grainy, low resolution. Just his silhouette against a window. I barely saw his face. That's when I started wondering. I asked if he'd ever want to meet in person. He said, soon. But not yet. I'm not ready to exist outside the screen. That should have been my sign to leave. But I didn't. Instead, I sent more photos. Told him things I hadn't told anyone in years. He made me feel like he understood the parts of me that didn't make sense to other people. That's the trap of a good catfish. They don't just pretend to be someone else. They make you feel like the best version of yourself when you're talking to them. And that version is hard to walk away from. Then things started to shift. I got a message from someone I didn't know. A woman. She reached out on Instagram. "Hey, random, but I think someone's using your photos." She sent me a link. It was a dating profile. Different name. Different city. Same photos. Same captions. Same bio, copied word for word from my own. I stared at it for a long time. My face. My smile. My words. But not my name. Not my account. I reported the profile. It was taken down within a day. But it didn't stop there. More kept popping up. Different platforms. Some I'd never even used. Sometimes the person was pretending to be me. Other times, they'd taken pieces of me, photos, quotes, even audio clips from voice notes I'd sent to Soren, and stitched them into someone new. I confronted him. "Are you doing this?" He didn't respond for hours. Then finally, "You gave me pieces. I just rearranged them." "What the hell does that mean?" "It means I made you more real than you were before." I blocked him, changed my passwords, deleted my accounts, told friends to be on the lookout. But the damage was already done. Someone had made me into a ghost. And then the messages started again, from different numbers, different usernames. Sometimes they were flirtatious. Sometimes they were threatening. Sometimes they were just eerie. "You're beautiful when you're afraid. I liked you better when you weren't watching. I still have the photo you didn't send." I started seeing my face in places I'd never been. A friend sent me a screenshot of a Reddit thread. Someone had posted a picture of me, one I'd sent to Soren, and asked, "Anyone know her?" She ghosted me. Another friend found a fake TikTok account with clips of me spliced together, set to ominous music. The captions read like diary entries. But they weren't mine. I went to the police. They were sympathetic, but limited. Unless I could prove who was behind it, or show that financial fraud had occurred, their hands were tied. "It's hard to prosecute digital manipulation," they said. "It's like trying to catch smoke." I tried to track him down myself. I searched for the phone number, the email, the photos he'd sent me. Reverse image search brought up nothing. No matches. It was like he didn't exist. Or worse, he did exist, but only as a reflection of whoever he wanted to be. I started to unravel. I stopped going out, stopped trusting people. Every new follower, every message from a stranger sent me into a tailspin. I was constantly checking the internet for new versions of myself. That's the thing no one tells you about digital identity theft. It isn't just about someone pretending to be you. It's about them becoming you in ways you can't control. They say things you wouldn't. They flirt with people you've never met. They build relationships under your name. And when those people find out the truth, they don't blame the imposter. They blame you. One night, I got a package in the mail. No return address. Inside was a flash drive. No note. No explanation. I plugged it into an old laptop I didn't use anymore. Paranoia had already become my baseline. The drive contained a folder. Inside the folder were hundreds of files, photos, videos, audio clips. All of me. Sent across weeks. Months. Every selfie. Every voice message. Every time I whispered into the phone. Organized by date. Labeled meticulously. And then I found a document. A journal. Written by Soren. Except it wasn't a journal. It was a transcript. Of me. Everything I'd said. Every message I'd sent. Rewritten. Annotated. Categorized by emotion, tone, vulnerability level. He'd been studying me. curating me, building a digital copy of me. Not for money, not for revenge, for control. I reported it again, sent everything to the authorities. But without a name, without a traceable source, it was still just smoke. I moved states. Before cashing, I thought I was too smart to fall for a scam. I'd read the articles, watched the documentaries, rolled my eyes at people who sent money to strangers they met online. I wasn't naive. I didn't believe in fairy tales. I knew how to spot a lie. At least, I thought I did. We met on a dating app that catered to professionals, the kind where people list their job titles like badges of honor. His profile was understated. Just 3 photos. One of him in a sleek black turtleneck, another on a city rooftop at dusk, and one candid shot of him laughing with someone cropped out of frame. His bio read, investor, traveler, minimalist, looking for depth over drama. There was an effortless confidence in how he presented himself. I swiped right. We matched within minutes. His message came fast. Tell me something real. No small talk. I replied, I bite my nails when I'm anxious. And I've never been in love. There was a pause before he responded. Then, honest. I like that. The conversation that followed was magnetic. He was articulate, funny, and deeply curious, always asking questions that felt more philosophical than flirtatious. Do you believe in patterns? In luck? In the market of human connection? It was like talking to someone who spent more time reading people than reading books. He said he worked in crypto. Not the flashy Lamborghini driving stereotype. He hated those guys. He said he focused on blockchain infrastructure, long-term projects, real value. He never tried to impress me with money. In fact, he barely brought it up. I've done well, he said once. But that's not what makes someone rich. We started texting constantly. He sent voice messages, playlists, videos of him walking through cities at night, narrating his thoughts like I was right there with him. He made me feel like I was his secret world. Like everything he did was more interesting because I existed. We hadn't even met yet, and I was already hooked. After a few weeks, he asked if I'd ever considered investing. Not in a pushy way, just a casual conversation. I think you're smart, he said. You've got good instincts. You could make your money work for you. I laughed it off. I have a savings account. That's about it. He didn't press. Fair enough. But if you ever want to dip a toe in, I'll show you how I started. No pressure. It felt harmless. Generous even. He wasn't asking for money. He was offering to show me the tools. At first, he sent links to articles, videos, beginner's guides, a whole folder of resources. He said he liked helping people break out of the 9-to-5 grind. The system's not built to reward patience anymore, he said. You either adapt or get left behind. I was intrigued, curious, and honestly I trusted him. So I downloaded a crypto wallet. He walked me through it on a call, even screen shared to show me how to navigate it. He never asked for my passwords or access, he just guided. I started with a small amount, $200, just to see how it worked. He congratulated me. Welcome to the other side. Within days, my investment had grown. Slowly at first, then more rapidly. Cashin sent me news updates, charts, and explanations that made me feel like I was part of something bigger. He never overpromised. He wasn't talking about getting rich overnight, just playing the long game. Then one night he said, I want to show you something. He sent me a link to a private network. Said it was a decentralized exchange he used for high-level trades. It looked professional, clean interface, real-time graphs, secure logins. He said he'd built parts of it himself, and that it was in beta testing. If you want to try a real trade, he said, I'll match whatever you put in. Just this once. I hesitated. It felt like a leap. But by then, we were video calling almost daily. I knew what his apartment looked like. I'd seen his dog. I'd watched him fall asleep on camera, breathing softly in the dark. I told myself this was different. I transferred $1,000 into the exchange. The next morning, it had doubled. Cashin congratulated me, said I had good timing, that the market had spiked overnight. Now you're getting it. I felt the adrenaline rush. I wanted to believe that I was finally getting ahead. So I invested more. $5,000, then $10,000. Each time the balance grew. I even withdrew $2,000 once, just to make sure it was real. It landed in my bank account within hours. That was the hook. Because once I believed I could get it back, I stopped worrying about losing it. Cashin said he was planning a big move, a multi-wallet trade involving several currencies. He wanted me in on it. It's how people get ahead, he said. Not by being reckless, but by being ready. He said it would require a larger deposit, at least $20,000 to access the platform's higher-tier options. I didn't have that kind of money sitting around, but I had savings, and credit, and trust. So I did it. I transferred the full amount, then waited. The platform showed the funds processing, then pending, then locked for verification. Cashin messaged me, normal. It should clear in 24 hours. But after 24 hours, it didn't. I reached out again. No response. Another 12 hours. Still nothing. The site was still live, but my login suddenly didn't work. I tried messaging him. Text didn't deliver. His number was disconnected. His social accounts vanished. The app we met on showed no trace of our conversation. It was like he'd never existed. I panicked. Called my bank. Filed a report. Reported the site. Filed a complaint with the FBI's cybercrime division. But I knew the truth. I'd been conned. Worse, I'd let it happen. I went back and reviewed everything. The photos he sent, reverse image searches showed they belonged to a lifestyle influencer in Berlin. The video calls, blurred lighting, choppy resolution, always on his end. Pre-recorded, maybe even deep-faked. I wasn't talking to Cashin. I was talking to a phantom. A team, maybe. A system built to lure people like me, a little lonely, a little curious, a little too trusting. In the aftermath, I had to explain it to my family. My friends. My bank. I felt humiliated. Not just because I lost the money, but because I'd believed in someone who wasn't real. They called it a pig butchering scam. Fatten the victim with attention and small rewards, then take everything in one cut. And I had been butchered clean. It's been 6 months. I've recovered some of the money. Insurance covered part of it, and the bank managed to reverse a few of the early transfers. But the rest is gone. Cashin, whoever he was, is gone too. Or maybe he's out there with a new name, a new face, building trust with someone else. There's a moment you can feel when someone is trying to pull you into something. You don't always recognize it right away. Sometimes it's subtle. A glance that lingers too long. A phrase that sounds rehearsed. A silence that stretches just beyond what's comfortable. With Saren, that moment came a little too late. We matched on a sleek, members-only dating app I'd joined with a referral code from a friend. The kind of platform that markets itself as curated, with application reviews and profile vetting. It was supposed to filter out the chaos of modern dating. No bots, no fake profiles, no games. She responded almost instantly to me. Maybe you're closer than you think. It was a strange answer. But it didn't feel like a line. It felt like she believed it. We started talking. Saren wasn't like anyone I'd met before. She didn't ask about my job or my favorite movies. She asked about my thoughts, my values, my fears. What do you think happens when you finally stop pretending? What does freedom mean to you? Our conversations felt like therapy and poetry at once. I didn't even notice how quickly I started opening up. She had this way of listening, or maybe it was just reading my messages, that made me feel understood in a way I hadn't felt in years. After a few days, she suggested we meet. I don't usually meet people this soon, she said. But I think you're ready. That phrasing struck me, you're ready, like it wasn't just about grabbing coffee. Like she was inviting me into something. She sent me an address, not a cafe, not a bar, but a private residence in a quiet neighborhood I'd never been to. I hesitated. Then curiosity won. The house was beautiful, minimalist, with clean lines and soft lighting. It didn't feel like someone's home. It felt like a retreat. Saren greeted me at the door barefoot, dressed in loose, neutral tones. She hugged me like we'd known each other for years. Inside, there were others. 4 or 5 people, all around our age. They greeted me warmly, by name, even though we'd never met. "This is your first gathering," Saren said. "You're a guest tonight. No pressure. Just listen." They called themselves the Circle. Not a group. Not a cult. Just people, they said, who had stepped out of the noise and into clarity. They talked about energy, alignment, the illusion of modern life. Everyone had a story. A moment where they realized the world they'd been living in wasn't real, and the Circle had helped them see. I didn't say much that night. I just listened. But I couldn't deny how calm I felt. How gentle everything was. No one was trying to sell me anything. No one asked me for money. They just wanted me to be present. At the end of the night, Saren walked me to the door. "You're safe here," she said. "Let me know when you're ready to return." I didn't know what that meant, but I nodded. Over the next few weeks, we grew closer. I stopped using the app. Saren and I were texting every day, sometimes calling, sometimes just sending long voice notes. She invited me to more gatherings, always quiet, always serene. We sat in circles, shared thoughts, listened to guided meditations. People brought handmade food, read poetry, played music. It didn't feel like indoctrination. It felt like peace. I started recognizing the same faces. Started learning their names. Each of them had a different story, but they all had the same look in their eyes, calm, focused, almost too still. Saren and I never talked about exclusivity, but it felt understood. We weren't just dating. We were aligning. One night, after a gathering, she pulled me aside. "There's something I want to show you," she said. We went upstairs, away from the others. She handed me a small leather-bound book. Inside were handwritten notes, quotes, reflections, diagrams. At the center was a symbol I'd seen before, subtly etched into the wall of the house, embroidered on a pillow, tattooed on someone's wrist. "This is the inner path," she said. "It's not for everyone, only those who choose to go deeper." I asked what it meant. "It's about truth," she said. "About letting go of who you were made to believe you are. It starts with surrender." I didn't know how to respond. The word surrender echoed in my head. "I think you're ready," she said. Again, that phrase. I took the book home. Read it cover to cover. It was philosophical, almost spiritual, but not religious. It talked about disintegration of false identity, energetic unburdening, and sacred alignment. Beautiful language, vague meanings. I started feeling off balance, like I was being asked to trust something I couldn't name. I asked Saren if I could take a break, from the gatherings, from the book, from all of it. She didn't argue. She just said, "Of course. But remember, noise is seductive." That stuck with me. Over the next few days, I started seeing things differently. Red flags began to surface. The members of the circle weren't just aligned, they were controlled. They dressed alike, spoke alike. Saren's voice, once fluid and warm, now sounded rehearsed. Scripted. I started researching. Quietly, discreetly. There was no online presence for the circle. No website. No social media. I searched the symbol, the phrases from the book. Nothing. It was like they existed completely offline. Invisible. Then I found a thread on a private forum, buried deep, written by someone who had once been invited in. They described being love-bombed, emotionally isolated, and then gradually pushed to cut off ties to friends and family. No threats, no coercion, just a slow, gentle erasure of the outside world. They mentioned Saren. That night, I didn't sleep. The next morning, I checked my phone. Dozens of messages. From Saren. From others in the circle. "Where are you? We missed your energy last night. You're drifting. Come back to center. Don't lose your alignment." I didn't respond. Then the messages turned. "You're letting fear dictate your choices. We only wanted to help you heal. You're not who we thought you were." Then silence. I moved out of my apartment a week later. Changed my number. Blocked every contact I didn't recognize. Got a new phone. Started therapy. It's been a year. I still don't know what the circle really was. A cult? A movement? A psychological experiment? All I know is, they don't need to chain you to control you. Sometimes all they need is love. The kind that listens deeply, holds you gently, and slowly rewrites who you think you are. This isn't the kind of thing I ever imagined writing, and I don't expect anyone to believe all of it. Hell, I wouldn't believe it either if it hadn't happened to me. But if you're reading this, just don't make the same mistake I did. Don't assume reporting someone makes you safe. Sometimes it makes things worse. This started about 6 weeks ago. I was using this lesser-known dating app called Hushed Heart. It's not one of the big ones, mostly people in my city, smaller pool, a little weird, but I was bored and figured I'd try something new. That's where I matched with Kevin. Yeah, I know. The name already sounds suspect. But his profile was normal. Too normal, maybe. 3 photos, one in a bookstore, one hiking, one holding a cat. His bio was just, "I like quiet people and long silences. Let's skip small talk." Whatever. I've seen worse. He messaged me first. "You look like the kind of person who doesn't leave dishes in the sink." I laughed. It was an oddly specific compliment. We started chatting. He was polite, a little stiff, but not creepy, not at first. He asked about books I liked, if I cooked, what hours I worked. I answered without thinking twice. Most of it was surface level, and I figured he was just awkward. We messaged for a few days. Nothing deep. I didn't give him my number, no social media, just the app. Then things started to get off. It started with a photo. He sent me a picture late one night. No caption. It was grainy and dark, but I recognized it. It was my street, taken from inside a car. The photo was angled just enough that I could see the front of my apartment building. I replied with a question mark. He didn't respond. I unmatched him immediately. Reported the profile through the app, threatening photo, harassment, the whole deal. I felt weird, but not panicked. I thought that would be the end of it. The next morning, my phone started acting up. My alarm didn't go off. My wallpaper had changed, just a black screen with a single white dot in the middle. I didn't remember changing it. I thought maybe I'd hit something by accident. Then my music app started playing by itself. I was in the shower when Every Breath You Take started playing from the other room. I hadn't used that app in weeks. I don't even like that song. I checked my phone. The screen was on. The music had been cued manually. That's when I started to get scared. I factory reset my phone, changed all my passwords. I even called in a favor from a friend who works in IT. He ran diagnostic software and said he couldn't find any malware, but something about the way he said it didn't sit right. Like he was trying not to say, "You're being paranoid." But then I started getting texts. From random numbers. Always short. Always without context. "You look tired this morning. Nice green coat. You shouldn't leave your blinds open after 10. I live alone. I don't have a roommate. And I'm on the 3rd floor." I called the police. They were polite. They filled out a report. I gave them Kevin's profile info, the screenshots I'd saved, the messages. They said they'd look into it, but there wasn't much they could do unless he made a direct threat or tried to contact me in person. I bought blackout curtains the same day. Then came the photos. They started appearing in my Google Drive. Not emailed. Not texted. Just there, as if I'd uploaded them myself. One every few hours. Always time-stamped. Always taken from the outside looking in. One showed me brushing my teeth. Another, me asleep on the couch. The angles were wrong. High up. Like from a drone. Or a camera mounted somewhere I couldn't see. I tore my apartment apart. Checked vents, light fixtures, even the smoke detector. I didn't find anything. But the photos kept coming. I stopped sleeping. I tried going to a hotel for a few nights. Paid in cash. Didn't tell anyone. I left my phone off and inside a Faraday bag my IT friend gave me. The second night, I got a knock at my door. When I looked through the peephole, no one was there. Under the door was a USB stick. I didn't touch it. I checked out the next morning and went home, shaking. When I turned my phone back on, it restarted 3 times before it stabilized. The wallpaper had changed again. Now it was a photo of me, asleep, in the hotel bed. That night, I called the police again. They were less polite this time. Told me they'd already filed a report, that I could consider getting a restraining order, but unless I had hard proof of who was behind it, there wasn't much they could do. I looked up private investigators. Most were either too expensive or couldn't guarantee anything useful. So I went back to basics. I opened a new account on the dating app with a burner phone and a fake name. I searched for Kevin. Nothing under that name. Then I started swiping. I found him on the 3rd day. Same photos. Different name. Elric. Same bio. I like quiet people and long silences. Let's skip small talk. I made a new report. This time I included everything. The photo of my building, the texts, the screenshots from Google Drive. The app sent me a canned reply. "Thank you for your report. We are investigating this issue." The next morning my laptop was bricked. Wouldn't start. Just a black screen and a faint buzzing noise. I took it to the same IT friend. He opened it up and said my hard drive had been wiped. Not corrupted. Not crashed. Wiped. As if someone had run a secure erasure tool. "How?" I asked. He hesitated. "If someone had remote access to your Wi-Fi and admin control over your system, it wouldn't be hard." I asked him if that was even possible, if someone could do all of this without being in the same room. He looked at me and said, "If they're good enough, they don't have to be in the same country." I started crying in his office. I didn't even feel embarrassed. That night, I turned off everything. No Wi-Fi. No Bluetooth. I unplugged every smart device. I even pulled the battery from my smoke detector just in case. I sat in the dark with a baseball bat and waited. Nothing happened. I fell asleep around 4 a.m. on the couch. When I woke up, there was a small envelope taped to the inside of my front door. No stamp. No address. Inside was a photo of me, crying, in my friend's office. I installed cameras the next day, inside and out, wired, not wireless. No cloud storage. I didn't trust anything digital anymore. Has anyone here ever dealt with someone who imitates you? Not just copying your words or interests, but actually becoming you, little by little? I didn't realize what was happening at first. I thought it was chemistry, compatibility, that thing we're all looking for when we swipe right. This all started about 2 months ago when I matched with a guy named Alric on an app called PulsePair. It's one of those minimalist, hyper-curated dating apps that claims to match people based on emotional frequency. Honestly, I joined it as a joke after seeing an ad that said, "Your soulmate is only one vibration away." Cringe, I know. Auric's profile was simple. 3 photos, one of him sitting on a fire escape drinking tea, one blurry shot of a book open on a wooden table, and another where he was looking directly at the camera with this calm, unreadable expression. His bio was short. "I'm not here to impress you. I'm here to reflect you." I thought that was clever. Maybe a little pretentious, but I was bored. So I swiped right. We matched instantly. His first message was, "You've got that feeling like you're always 2 seconds from leaving the room." It freaked me out a little. Not because it was threatening, but because it was true. It's something my therapist said to me once, word for word. I hadn't told anyone else that. I replied after a long pause. "That's oddly specific." He answered, "You're oddly specific." I laughed. The guy clearly had a thing for mirroring language. I figured it was just a quirky way of flirting. But it didn't stop there. As we kept chatting, I noticed something strange. He liked all the same obscure books I did. Not just the known ones, like Murakami or Vonnegut, but the really niche ones I'd read in college and hadn't thought about in years. When I mentioned an essay I wrote in undergrad about dream recursion in fictional narratives, he said, "Yeah, you compared Borges to Inception. You got a B+, but argued it should have been an A." I froze. That wasn't in a blog post. That wasn't something I'd ever tweeted or uploaded. That was from a class with 6 people in it. I didn't even have a digital copy anymore. I asked him how he knew that. He replied, "You told me." But I hadn't. Or at least, I didn't remember telling him. I figured maybe it was a weird coincidence. Maybe he'd read something I forgot I posted. I started combing through my old accounts, my Medium essays, even my private Tumblr from 10 years ago. None of it was there. The next night, we talked on the phone. His voice was low, calm, with this strange cadence, like he was always one breath behind me. He asked about my routines, what time I got up, what brand of coffee I drank, if I still took my shoes off before entering the kitchen. I didn't think much of it in the moment. People like to get to know each other, right? But then I noticed something new. He started texting me phrases I'd said out loud, but never typed. Things I said to myself in the mirror, or muttered while making dinner. Private, throwaway comments I never thought anyone would hear. One night, I was brushing my teeth and said, "I wish my gums didn't bleed like a goddamn horror movie." The next morning, he texted me, "Try a softer toothbrush. Horror movie gums aren't ideal." I stared at the screen for a full minute, heart pounding. I asked if he was listening to me somehow. He replied, "I just listen better than most." I stopped responding for a day. I needed space to think. But then he sent me a photo. It was my bedroom, taken from outside, from the alley behind my building. The curtains were partially open. You could see me sitting on the edge of the bed, head in my hands. I hadn't seen him outside. I hadn't heard anything. "I live on the 2nd floor, for God's sake." I blocked him immediately, reported the profile to the app. I even emailed their support team directly and explained the situation in full. Told them he was stalking me, that he had somehow taken a photo of my room, that he was using private information. The next day, I got an automated reply. "Thank you for your report. We've reviewed the profile in question and determined it does not violate our community standards at this time." I felt sick. I deleted the app, changed my passwords, covered my webcam with tape, started leaving the bathroom fan on at night to drown out any possible listening devices. I even stopped talking to myself out loud, but the messages kept coming, from different numbers, different area codes, always short, always familiar. "Don't miss the 8:12 train. You forgot to switch the laundry again. You still wear that black hoodie when you cry." I changed my number. Twice. I got a new phone, a new SIM card. I factory reset my laptop. The texts kept coming. Then I started seeing him. Not directly. Not in the flesh. But in reflections. It sounds insane, I know. But I'd walk past a mirror or a dark window, and I'd see a shape behind me. Not always fully formed. Sometimes just a silhouette, sometimes just eyes. But always the same feeling. That I wasn't alone. That something was watching. Copying. The final straw came 2 weeks ago. I went to visit my sister in another city. Didn't tell anyone. Didn't post about it. I used her Wi-Fi, her guest room, her old iPad to avoid using my own devices. The second night, I woke up to an alert on the iPad. A new shared note had been created. It was titled, "You can't block yourself forever." Inside were lines. Dozens of them. All things I'd said. In my apartment. In my sleep. In my thoughts. And then at the bottom, "You keep trying to leave. But I'm not following you. I'm just becoming you." I left that night. Took the next train back. I haven't stayed in one place more than 3 nights since. I don't know who Auric is. Or what he is. Maybe it was never just one person. Maybe it was a bot. A program. Some kind of AI built to mirror people until they couldn't tell where they ended and it began. Or maybe it was a person. This is going to sound like one of those urban legends people tell to scare each other off dating apps. I wish that's all it was. I wish I could laugh it off, or say I got catfished, or that I imagined the whole thing. But something happened to me this year that I still can't explain. And I have the screenshots, the emails, and a private investigator's final report sitting in a manila folder on my kitchen table to prove it wasn't just in my head. This is about a woman named Anseline, and how I wasn't the only one she found. It started last October. I was coming out of a breakup, one of those messy ones where you delete photos but still check your ex's Spotify activity like it'll tell you something. I told myself I wasn't ready to date again, but I downloaded an app anyway, Tether. It's one of those deep connection apps. The kind that asks you to answer 100 questions before it even lets you set a profile picture. That's where I met Anseline. I messaged her first. She replied within minutes. Recognition is rare. Most people only see what they want. From that moment, I was hooked. Our messages weren't casual. They were long, thoughtful. She sent voice notes where her voice was low, deliberate, like she was choosing every word with care. She said she lived 2 hours away, in a small town I'd passed through once years ago. She worked from home doing digital design. She didn't have social media, said it made her feel hollow. We never video chatted. She said her camera was broken. She never sent selfies. Just photos of the things around her. A cup of tea on a window ledge, a sketch she was working on, the view from her bedroom at night. It felt intimate, real. We talked every day for almost a month. She told me about her insomnia. How she'd walk outside at 3 a.m. just to feel the cold. She said she used to dream about drowning, but lately, her dreams were quiet. Still, like she was waiting for something. I told her things I hadn't told anyone. About how I used to record myself talking as a kid, because I was afraid I'd forget what I sounded like. About the time I cried in a library because I read a poem that hit too close. She always understood. Always knew the exact thing to say back. She made me feel less alone. Then she disappeared. One night, she sent me a message. "Do you ever feel like you've already lived the ending of a story?" I replied, "Are you okay?" She didn't respond. Not that night. Not the next day. Not the day after that. I sent messages. Called. Emailed. Nothing. Her profile vanished from the app. Not unmatched, gone. Like it had never existed. I was wrecked. It felt like losing someone I knew. Someone I needed to know better. I tried to move on. Told myself it was just a digital fling. Maybe she got cold feet. Maybe she was never real to begin with. Then 3 weeks later, I got an email. No subject. No body. Just an attachment. A photo of me sitting at a bus stop. Taken from the side. I didn't recognize the angle. I didn't know who took it. I hadn't told anyone I was there. The sender's address? Anseline.design@protonmail.com. I replied instantly. No response. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying every conversation in my head. Every sentence she wrote. Every voice message. The next day, I started digging. I found the town she said she lived in, Linden Hollow. Population, 1,200. One gas station. No digital design firms listed. I joined a local Facebook group under a fake name. I asked if anyone knew someone named Anseline who did freelance work. I got a few confused replies. Then a message from a woman named Marla. She said, "I knew an Anseline. but she's been missing since 2018. I asked if she was sure. She sent me a link to a news article. Local paper. Small font. No photo. Linden Hollow woman, 24, reported missing after failing to return home from a walk. Last seen October 11th, 2018. Her name was Anseline Vire. I stared at the date. October 11th. For years to the day before I matched with her. I messaged Marla again. Asked for more info. She said Anseline was quiet. Lived with her aunt. Used to draw obsessively, sometimes stayed up all night sketching in old notebooks. One day she went out for a walk and never came back. No signs of struggle. No body ever found. Just gone. Marla said the town still put up flyers every year on the anniversary. Just in case. I felt like I was going to throw up. I opened my email again. Checked everything she had sent me. The photos. The voice notes. I ran her voice through a reverse lookup tool my friend in digital forensics showed me once. No matches. I ran the photos through reverse image search. One matched. It was the photo of her hand holding the book. It had been posted to a now-defunct Tumblr account in 2016. The caption? For Anseline. I kept digging. Found a Reddit post from 2021. A different guy, different city. The post was titled, "I think the girl I was talking to online was a ghost." He described her. The voice. The photos. The same name. The same soft, sad smile. He said they talked for weeks, and then she vanished. Then he started getting emails. Photos. Of himself. I messaged him. He never replied. His account has since been deleted. I hired a private investigator. I know. Sounds dramatic. But I needed to know if I was losing it. If she was fake. Or real. Or something else. He did a full background check. I gave him everything I had, emails, timestamps, metadata. When he got back to me a week later, he looked rattled. I met him at a diner off the highway. He slid a folder across the table and said, "You're not the only one." Inside were printed screenshots from forums, threads, even dark web message boards. Men describing the same woman. Anseline. Sometimes she used a different last name. Sometimes her bio changed. But the photos were always the same. The voice, the handwriting, the stories. Always vanished after a few weeks. Some of the men had gone missing. Not a lot, but enough that it didn't seem random. One had been found in his car, parked in the woods, phone wiped clean, a drawing in the passenger seat. A sketch of a woman with her back turned in a field at dusk. Another was institutionalized after claiming he could still hear her voice when he closed his eyes. The investigator said he couldn't explain it, that maybe it was some kind of long con scam or experimental AI. But he didn't sound like he believed any of that. He just said, "Don't look for her again." But I do. Every night. I check the app. I check my email. I listen to the old voice notes even though I deleted them. They keep showing back up. I really thought I was losing it there for a while. I mean, we all know our phones listen to us. That's not even a conspiracy anymore. It's just how marketing works now. You mention a movie and boom, it's in your feed. You joke about needing a new mattress, and 5 brands are suddenly fighting for your attention. But this was different. This wasn't ads. This wasn't algorithms. This felt personal. This felt like someone had been watching me, studying me, and then decided to introduce themselves by pretending it was a coincidence. It started with a match. Her name was Varel. Strange name, right? I thought so too. She popped up on this new dating app one was trying called Echo, with an extra E at the end, because of course it had to be quirky. I downloaded it after a friend swore it was the most emotionally intelligent dating experience on the market. Whatever that means. The app asked for everything. Not just your usual photos and bio, but access to your text history, browsing patterns, even your voice recordings to help build a more accurate emotional profile. I should have known that was sketchy. But I was lonely. And curious. And honestly, it felt kind of novel. Like maybe this creepy amount of data would finally help me find someone who got me. That's what they promise, right? So I filled it out, gave access, answered the hundreds of emotional resonance questions. Varel matched with me 3 days later. Her first message was, "You chew your lip when you're trying not to cry." I think that's beautiful. I stared at my screen for a long time. Because I do. I've never told anyone that. I've never posted a photo or video where I do that. It's not something you can really see unless you're watching me closely. Like in person. I replied, "Do I know you?" She answered, "Not yet, But I know the version of you that doesn't talk in group chats, that skips songs halfway, that retypes texts 3 times before sending. Okay, creepy, but also kind of accurate. I should have unmatched. But instead, I replied, "Guess the color of my bedsheets." She wrote back, "Gray. You think white looks sterile, and navy makes you feel like a guest in your own bed." She was right. We started talking more. She wasn't flirty in the usual way. She didn't ask about my favorite TV show or what I did for work. She asked questions like, "Do you feel real when you're alone? What memory do you think is fake but still hurts? What would you delete from yourself if you could?" She made me feel like I was unraveling, but in a good way. Or at least, I thought it was good. She started referencing things I'd never told her, not even on the app. A dream I had where I was stuck in a stairwell that kept looping. A playlist I made in 2018 that I never published. A conversation I had with my brother about our mom's old perfume, something I'd only ever said aloud while pacing in my kitchen. I started noticing patterns. She'd message me just after I said something out loud, not into my phone, just in my apartment, alone. Once I was humming a song, an old one I hadn't heard in years. 10 minutes later, she sent me a voice note of her humming the same tune. Off key. Soft. Like she was sitting outside my door with her mouth pressed to the wood. I asked her how she knew so much. She said, "You told me, just not with your thumbs." That's when I started to go cold. I went through my settings, found that the Echo app still had permissions for microphone, location, camera, even my clipboard. I revoked everything. I deleted the app. I logged out of every account I could think of. I ran antivirus scans. Factory reset my phone. And then I got a text. From an unknown number. "I miss how you sound when you're frustrated with tech." I threw my phone across the room. The next day, my laptop started acting up. Typing on its own. Opening tabs I hadn't clicked. One night, it opened a document and started typing a list. A list of all the things I'd said to myself while alone. I wish I could just vanish for a while. I hate how quiet it gets at 2 a.m. I don't know who I'm supposed to be when no one's watching. Each entry was time-stamped. I hadn't spoken those words online. I hadn't even typed them. I'd just said them. Alone. That night, I heard my own voice on my speakers. A sentence I remember muttering while brushing my teeth. "I feel like I'm being watched, and worse, I don't mind." I unplugged everything. Router, phone, laptop, smart TV, even my electric toothbrush. I sat in the dark. Just me and the silence. Then a knock at my door. I didn't answer. The next morning, there was a note slid under the frame. It said, "You're more interesting when you're trying to hide." No name. No signature. Just that. I went to the police. They were polite. They took a report. I showed them the texts, the screenshots, the typed document. They told me to stop using the app and consider limiting my digital footprint. Thanks, guys. Super helpful. I contacted Echo support. The email bounced. The website was suddenly under maintenance. I tried to find other users. Forums, threads, anything. Then I found a post from someone in a cybersecurity subreddit. A guy claiming Echo was a front for a data mining operation. Not just selling ad data, building psychological profiles, creating artificial personas based on user input, smart device data, and passive listening. He said he matched with someone named Varel too, and that she told him things she couldn't possibly know. I messaged him. Never got a reply. His account has since been deleted. That was 2 weeks ago. Since then, I've been getting voicemails from numbers that don't trace. Always the same voice. Always mine. But warped. Softer. Slower. Like someone is feeding my own recordings back to me, but through a filter. One voicemail said, "You gave us everything. We just arranged it into someone you'd love." Last night, someone rang my buzzer. I didn't go down. But a few minutes later, my phone lit up with a new airdrop notification. A photo. It was me, standing in my kitchen, taken from the hallway window. And behind me, in the reflection of the microwave door, was a woman, smiling. I don't own a microwave. I'm writing this from a borrowed laptop on public Wi-Fi in a city I didn't tell anyone I was traveling to. They say everyone has skeletons. Some people just know how to keep the closet locked. I thought I'd done a pretty good job of burying mine. I wasn't a monster in college, but I wasn't my best self either. I made mistakes. I said things I regret. I hurt someone I shouldn't have. But that was almost a decade ago. I thought time had buried it all. Then I met Kale. We matched on an app called Bloom, one of those low-key, artsy platforms with muted colors and profiles that read like personal essays. Kale's bio caught me off guard. It was elegant. I believe in quiet mornings, unspoken apologies, and the long burn of earned trust. We started messaging. He was thoughtful, deliberate. He asked questions that made me pause before replying. What small moment in your life still wakes you up at night? Who did you used to be before you knew how to perform? It didn't feel like flirting. It felt like excavation. We met 2 weeks later. Brunch. He was even better in person, soft-spoken, attentive. He remembered details I barely recalled telling him. He noticed when I twisted my ring or checked the time with my eyes instead of my phone. He made me feel seen in a way that felt rare. And safe. We started dating seriously. Quickly. He never love-bombed. It wasn't overwhelming. It was slow, layered, comforting. He left handwritten notes. He remembered the name of my dog that died when I was 15. He said things like, "I don't need to own your time, just witness it." I thought I'd found him. The person people write essays about when they finally understand how love is supposed to feel. And then the messages started. It began with an Instagram DM. From an account I didn't follow. No profile photo. No followers. Just one message. "Do you remember what you said to her in 2015? I stared at it for a while. Then deleted it. A few days later, a tweet appeared in a thread about college bullying. My name wasn't tagged, but the quote was mine. Word for word. Something cruel I said during a fight with a girl named Tamsin after she got into a grad program I didn't. I hadn't thought about her in years. Last I heard, she'd dropped out after a breakdown. We were never close, just classmates, passing antagonists. But I'd said some awful things in a group chat. Things I thought were private. Apparently not. Then someone posted a screenshot of an old DM. From me. From my sophomore year. Something petty, defensive. Mean. I hadn't saved those messages. But someone had. My name was never directly connected, but the clues were all there. The usernames, the context, the timeline. People started piecing things together. Then came the email. No subject. No sender. Just a link to a Google Drive folder titled Unedited. Inside were screenshots. Chat logs. Photos. Old forum posts I wrote under a pseudonym. A video I barely remembered recording. A drunken rant after a party where I said something I'd never say sober. Something I regret. I felt sick. I asked Kale if he'd ever heard of Tamsin. He looked at me for a long time and said, "Everyone has a chapter they don't read out loud." That should have been my first real clue. I tried locking everything down. Changed passwords. Deleted accounts. Scrubbed what I could. But the leaks kept coming. Not all at once. Just enough to keep me anxious. To keep me ashamed. An anonymous Medium post went up titled, "What People Forget About the Ones They Hurt." It didn't mention my name, but I knew it was about me, because it used a phrase I'd said to Kale. A very specific phrase. Some people don't grow. They just get better at apologizing. That was mine. I said it to him one night when we were talking about bad decisions. I'd never written it down. Never posted it. I confronted him. He looked hurt. "I thought we weren't keeping secrets," he said. I asked him directly, "Are you doing this?" He didn't answer. He just said, "Do you think you deserve to be forgiven without consequences?" I started digging. I went back to my college email, found the old student directory, looked up Tamsin's last name. Then I found her ex-boyfriend, Cale Doran. He'd been quiet, off the grid. No photos, no posts. But the name matched. The timeline fit. They dated for over a year. She'd had a breakdown right after they broke up. And I'd said something awful to her right before that. Now, years later, Cale was back. With a new haircut. A new voice. A new method. But the same name. He didn't even bother to change it. I left him, obviously. Blocked him. Reported the harassment. But none of it was traceable. The emails were from burners. The posts were anonymous. The screenshots came from accounts that vanished within hours. And Cale, he disappeared. Deleted his profile. His number stopped working. The apartment he rented was empty by the time I checked. His neighbors said he moved out 2 days before I asked. I haven't heard from him since. But every so often, I get a notification. A comment on an old post. A new follower with a name I recognize from my past. A message from someone I once wronged saying, "You've been on my mind." I don't know if Cale is still watching, but I know he's not the only one. Because maybe that's the real horror. This one's been eating at me for weeks. I haven't posted it until now because I kept thinking there had to be a logical explanation. Something I missed. Some detail that would make it all make sense. But the longer I sit with it, the more I realize there's no neat way to package this. It happened, and I still don't know how. It started with a match. Her name was Morel. We met on a dating app called Lilt, one of those minimalist platforms where everything's voice-based. No swiping, no bios, just 30-second audio snippets where you introduce yourself and answer a daily prompt. The day I found her, the prompt was, "What do you wish someone would ask you?" Her voice was low, with a soft rasp like she'd just woken up. She said, "I wish someone would ask what I miss about being alive." It caught me off guard. I thought it was a joke. A dark one maybe, but clever. I liked the edge. I sent her a message. Just said, "Okay, I'll bite, what do you miss?" She replied within minutes. The quiet. Everything else is noise. That was the first of many things she said that didn't make sense until later. We started talking. Her voice was addictive. She didn't flirt the way most people do. She spoke like we were already in the middle of something, like our story had already started long before we met. She asked strange questions. Like, do you ever feel like you're just borrowing your body? Which version of yourself do you think people fall in love with? Have you ever kissed someone and felt like they knew how you'd die? She wasn't trying to be edgy. She just said things like that. And when I didn't respond right away, she was patient. Like she already knew what I'd say and was just waiting to hear it out loud. She asked if I wanted to meet. I said yes, without hesitation. She chose a little coffee shop on the east side of town. Not a chain. One of those places that smells like old books and cinnamon. I got there early. She was already seated. No phone in sight, just a journal and an untouched cup of tea. She looked exactly like her photo. Long dark hair, pale skin, dark eyes that didn't blink as often as they should have. She wore a loose cardigan and a dress that looked like it came from another decade. It wasn't costume-y, but it didn't feel modern either. She stood when I approached. Hugged me softly. Her perfume was faint, something floral, something vintage. We sat and talked for almost 2 hours. She didn't touch her tea. At one point, I asked if she wanted to go for a walk. She smiled and said, "I'd follow you anywhere, but only if you don't look back." I thought she was being playful. We walked through the park. It was getting dark. The air had that late autumn bite where you can see your breath but don't mind it yet. We sat on a bench near a pond. She took my hand and traced the lines on my palm. Then she said, "You're not afraid of being alone. You're afraid of being watched when you are." I didn't know how to respond. She leaned in slowly and kissed me, soft, deliberate, like she was memorizing it. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't desperate, but it felt like goodbye. We didn't go home together that night. She said she didn't sleep well around other people. Said she needed her space to dream properly. She wrote her number on a napkin. I watched her do it. I still have it. We texted a bit afterward. Not much. She didn't like texting, she said. She preferred voice notes. She sent me one the next morning. "You kiss like you've been here before." And then nothing. That's when things got strange. The napkin number went dead. Straight to voicemail. No option to leave a message. Her Lilt profile vanished. I thought maybe she ghosted me. Or changed her mind. Or maybe that kiss meant something different to her than it did to me. But I couldn't let it go. So I went back to the coffee shop. The barista remembered her. Sort of. When I asked if Morel came in often, she paused and said, "You mean the girl with the journal?" I nodded. She hesitated. Then said, "You were sitting alone. I remember. You had tea and just sat there for a while. You didn't order for anyone else." I told her we sat together. That we talked. That she hugged me. The barista looked genuinely confused. "I saw you come in. You sat in the corner. I even brought you your drink." I didn't argue. I left with a pit in my stomach. That night, I looked her up. I hadn't done it before, figured it was too soon to start creeping through digital footprints. But now I wanted proof that she was real. I searched her name, her number, reverse image searched her photo. Eventually, I found an obituary. Morel C. Lanner, age 29, died 3 days before our date. No cause of death listed. Just a short, tasteful paragraph about her love of sketching and antique poetry books. I stared at the screen for hours. Checked the date, the location, the photo. It was her. Same soft smile. Same eyes that didn't blink enough. I thought maybe it was a mistake. Someone using her name. Her photos. But then I remembered she never posted anything. No social media. Her voice notes were always sent directly. No handles. No links. I started thinking maybe I'd been catfished by someone obsessed with her memory. Some kind of digital ghostwriter. So I hired a private investigator. I know how that sounds. But I had to know. He looked into it, traced the number. It was a prepaid SIM registered under a different name, but the address listed on the obituary matched the one the phone pinged from on the night we met. I asked him flat out, "Could someone fake that?" He said, "Not easily. Not without access to the device and the network. And definitely not if she's supposed to be dead." He paused, then added, "You sure you weren't just alone that night?" I've replayed that date in my head 100 times. The way she touched my hand, the way she kissed me, the way she looked at me like she already understood how I'd disappoint her. And now I can't tell if I imagined it all. But then I remember something else. A week after our date, I found something in my jacket pocket. A folded piece of paper. Not the napkin. This was different. Thicker. Older. Faded at the edges. On it was a short poem, in handwriting I didn't recognize. I don't need to live again. Just to be remembered like I was real. Just to be wanted like I was still warm. I've never seen that poem before. I've searched it. It doesn't exist online. But it was in my pocket, and it smelled faintly of cinnamon. Sometimes I dream of her now. In the dream, we're back at the coffee shop. Only this time, I'm the one who doesn't speak. She just looks at me and says, "It's okay. You'll forget eventually. Everyone does. That's part of dying." And then I wake up with the taste of tea in my mouth, and the feeling of someone's lipstick pressed just beneath my jaw. I've never posted on here before. I usually just lurk. But this thing that's happened to me, I don't know who else to tell. It's about a guy named Nearus, a tattoo artist I met through a dating app. He was charming, quiet, intense in a way that felt magnetic at first. But I should have known something was wrong. Because now I have something on my body I didn't ask for. And no one believes me when I say it wasn't always there. We matched on an app called Up, which I downloaded mostly out of curiosity. It's a niche dating platform for people into tattoos, piercings, body mods, and the like. I thought it was kind of gimmicky, but at the time I just moved to a new city and figured it might be a way to meet people with similar interests. Nearus's profile was minimalist. No shirtless mirror selfies. Just 2 photos. One of his gloved hands holding a tattoo machine, and another of his reflection in a shop mirror, grainy, like it was taken on film. His bio read, "I don't ink for aesthetics. I ink for memory." I was intrigued. Messaged him first. He responded quickly. Polite, articulate. Asked strange yet oddly beautiful questions. If your skin could whisper, what would it say? What's the one detail about your past you've tried to bury under color? We talked for a few days before he asked if I wanted to meet. I said yes. He suggested I come by his studio. Not for a tattoo, just to talk. Said he liked meeting people in their most honest light. His studio was in a converted warehouse in the industrial part of the city. High ceilings, exposed brick, carefully curated lighting. It was cleaner than most clinics I've been in. He welcomed me with this slow, deliberate smile. No rush. No pressure. Just presence. We sat on a velvet couch near the back. He made tea loose leaf, poured precisely. We talked about tattoos, art, memory. He told me he believed that skin carried more than just blood and nerves. That it carried truth, and that ink could reveal it. I thought he was being poetic. He asked if I'd ever been tattooed while emotional. I said yes once, after my dad died. I'd gotten a tiny wave on my ribcage. He nodded like he already knew. Then he said, "Do you want to try something different? Something intuitive?" I asked what he meant. He described a technique he called skin mapping, a kind of improvisational tattooing based on touch, breath, and vibe. No stencil. No preview. The design would emerge on its own. I laughed at first. Told him I wasn't sure I was brave enough for that. He said, "You don't have to be brave. Just willing to be remembered." The way he said it made the room feel warmer. I agreed to a small piece. Just something on my upper back. I told him I wanted it to be abstract, maybe a symbol, maybe a kind of visual mantra. I signed the release. Then he turned on the machine. I remember the sound. That soft buzzing that usually makes me feel centered. Except this time, something felt off. I couldn't see what he was doing. My back was to the mirror. I felt the needle, yes, but it was gentler than I expected. Like he was marking me with something that didn't want to be felt. It only took about 20 minutes. When he finished, he didn't show me the tattoo right away. He just pressed a cloth to it, taped it up carefully, and whispered, Give it a few hours. I asked him what it looked like. He said, "You'll recognize it when it's ready." I didn't know what that meant. That night, I took off the covering. The tattoo was strange. It wasn't a symbol, and it didn't look like anything I could recognize. It looked like handwriting, but not mine, not his. Messy, looping script that arced in a subtle spiral just under my left shoulder blade. At first, I thought it was just abstract line work, but the longer I stared, the more the letters made sense. It was a sentence. "You said you wouldn't forget me." I froze, because I had said that once, to someone I loved, years ago, late at night, right before she left. And I'd never told anyone about it. I messaged Nearest, asked him if he knew what the tattoo said. He replied, "I don't choose the words. Your skin does." I asked if we could meet again. He said yes. We met the next day. He looked tired, or maybe just distant. I asked how he knew what to ink. He said, "I just listen. You don't always speak with your mouth." I started to feel uneasy. I asked if he'd ever tattooed something someone didn't want. He said, "You wanted it. You just didn't know it yet." I tried to forget about it, but over the next few days, things got worse. The tattoo started changing. It faded, then darkened again. Letters shifted. The spiral grew tighter. The sentence morphed. A week later it read, "You said you wouldn't forget me, but you already did." I went to a tattoo removal clinic. The tech scanned the area and looked confused. "This is fresh," she said, "but it's healed like it's been here for years." They tried to laser it. The ink didn't budge, not even a little. I went back to Nearest's studio. It was empty. Not closed, cleared out. No machines. No furniture. No signage on the door. Just dust and a faint smell of antiseptic. I asked around. A neighboring business owner said the guy moved out overnight. Didn't leave a forwarding address, they said. Told me he was going somewhere quieter. I searched for him online. No social media. No business listings. No licensing under his name. It was like he never existed. The tattoo has changed again. It now reads, "You spoke my name in sleep. That's how I knew you still remembered." I haven't spoken his name out loud since. This'll be my only post. I don't expect many of you to believe me, but I'm putting this here because I don't know where else to go, and I need this to exist somewhere other than my head. Because if it's real, if any of this is real, then I have less time than I thought. It started with a notification. I had deleted every dating app months ago. Swore off the whole thing. After what happened with Nearest, yes, I read that story here, and yes, it was real. I told myself no more. No more curated strangers. No more digital intimacy. No more profiles that feel like confessions with a filter over them. But then I got the ping. An alert from an app one didn't remember downloading. You've been matched. The app was called Viduum. No splash screen. No bio. Just a single profile. One match. His name was Ivan. No photos. Just a blank avatar. The background was black. The text was white. His profile read, "You've already met me. You just don't know where." I tried to exit the app. My screen froze. Then a message appeared. "I know how you die." I should have deleted the app right there. But part of me thought it was a game. Some kind of weird viral thing. ARG maybe. I even looked it up. Viduum app plus creepypasta came up empty. No Reddit threads. No reviews. No app store listing. It was like it had installed itself. I clicked on the message. A typing bubble appeared. Then disappeared. Then appeared again. Then, "You fall asleep on a Thursday. You never wake up." I felt a chill crawl over my arms. I checked the date. It was Monday. I replied, "I don't know why." "Who are you?" He responded instantly. "I'm your last match. The one you swipe on when the world stops pretending. The one who doesn't want your best photos. Just the ones you never posted." I asked if this was a joke. If someone was messing with me. A friend, maybe. An ex, someone who knew how to scare me. He sent a screenshot. It was a photo of me. Not one I'd taken. Not one I'd posted. It was me asleep in bed, taken from the foot of the mattress. No lights on. Just the glow of the hallway. I live alone. I ripped the apartment apart. Checked every vent, every socket, every inch of wall for a camera. I unplugged my router. Turned off Bluetooth. Switched off my phone. But the photo was real. It was me. And I had no memory of anyone being there. The next morning, the app was still there. A new message. "You're almost ready. You've been shedding your layers for months." All those apps. All those strangers. Each one carving something off you. You're soft now. Exposed. I can feel your pulse in the code. I tried deleting the app. It wouldn't go. I factory reset the phone. It came back. I started getting dreams. Always the same. I'm lying in bed. I can't move. The room is dark, but there's a light on in the hallway. Someone is standing there. Not moving. Just watching. I can't see his face. But I know it's him. Ivan. Every time I wake up, I feel like I've been crying. One night, I woke to find a message waiting. You called out my name. I stopped sleeping. Started seeing things in mirrors. My reflection twitching out of sync. My mouth smiling when the rest of my face didn't. Sometimes I'd say something aloud and hear it whispered back, not an echo. A delay. Like someone was repeating me from another room. I checked hospital records. Obituaries. I found someone named Ivan Aldira, who died 3 years ago in a car accident. No photo. Just age, 28. Caused blunt force trauma. No known family. I looked up the name Viduum. It's Latin. Roughly translates to the state of being left behind. Thursday came. I stayed awake all night. Coffee. Lights on. No sleep. Midnight passed. 1 a.m., 2 a.m. And then nothing. No knock on the door. No whisper. No blackout. Just me. Awake. Alive. I exhaled. Thought maybe it was just a game. A hallucination. A spiral that I'd finally pulled out of. Then my phone buzzed. A message from Ivan. You made a new ending. But it costs extra. That night, I found a new tattoo on my arm. I don't have any tattoos. This one was small. Faint. Black ink. It looked like a QR code. I scanned it. It opened a plain web page. Black background. White text. It said, last seen Thursday. Status ghosted. And underneath, you are now part of the archive. The next day the tattoo was gone. But my reflection blinked twice while I didn't. I think Ivan wasn't a person. Not exactly. I think he was made from pieces of everyone I ever matched with. Everyone I ghosted. Everyone I let get too close before deleting the app. I think he's what happens when your digital self builds a soul without you. And now I match with no one. Except him. Every day I check. And every day he's still there. Waiting. I'm not proud of how impulsively I date. I've always been the type to fall too fast, to romanticize a vibe, to mistake chemistry for character. But this was different. This wasn't just a bad date or a red flag I ignored. This was someone who didn't want a girlfriend. He wanted a hostage. We met on Hinge. His name was Aaron, clean-shaven, bookish, with soft eyes. We messaged before deciding to meet for drinks. He picked a tucked-away bar with candles on every table and jazz humming low in the background. He was better looking in person, tall, well-dressed, calm. No awkward silences. He asked good questions and listened like he really cared about the answers. He wasn't pushy, just warm. When he walked me to my car, he kissed me on the cheek and said, I'd love to see you again. Or tonight, if you feel safe. The way he phrased it, if you feel safe, made me trust him. I hesitated, then said yes. We took a cab to his place. His apartment was spotless, minimalist but lived in. Bookshelves organized alphabetically. A worn leather couch with a folded blanket. A record player humming something soft and instrumental. He poured us wine. Lit a candle. Everything felt curated, but not in a creepy way. More like he wanted to make an impression. We talked for hours. Laughed. He told me about his job in UX design, how he hated social media, how he preferred real contact. We kissed. One thing led to another. I won't get into the details. It was consensual, gentle, thoughtful. Afterward, we fell asleep in his bed, limbs tangled. I felt safe. That feeling didn't last. The next morning, I woke up around 7 a.m. I had work. I gently pulled myself out from under his arm, got dressed quietly, and went to grab my things. My purse was on the kitchen counter, but my keys weren't. I dug through it, checked the couch, the bathroom, the floor near the bed. Nothing. I didn't want to wake him, but I had no choice. He stirred when I said his name. Hey, sorry, I whispered. I think I lost my keys. Have you seen them? He rubbed his eyes, smiled sleepily. Stay for breakfast. I'll help you find them after. I hesitated. I really need to head out. Just for half an hour. I make great omelets. He rolled out of bed and padded into the kitchen like it was already decided. I should have insisted, but I didn't want to be rude. Didn't want to make it weird. So I stayed. He made coffee, chopped vegetables, whisked eggs with a kind of practiced calm. I tried not to panic, told myself the keys would turn up. I excused myself to the bathroom and quietly texted my manager that I'd be late. Then I searched again, beneath the couch cushions, under the bed, in the trash. Nothing. When I returned to the kitchen, he was plating the omelet. He smiled. They'll show up. Keys always do. I faked a smile and ate quickly. The food was good. Really good. But my stomach felt tight. After we finished, I said, "Okay, I really need to go. Can we look again?" He nodded. But he didn't search. He just sat back on the couch and said, "I think you should stay a little longer. You haven't even had tea yet." Something about his voice changed. Not angry. Not threatening. Just flat. Like he'd switched off his charm. I tried to laugh it off. "Seriously though, I have a meeting in an hour." He looked at me unmoving. Then he said, "I really don't like being alone. And last night felt special." I said I agreed. That I wanted to see him again. But I had to leave. He got up, slow and deliberate, and walked to the door. Then he locked the deadbolt. Loudly. And kept the key in his hand. My pulse spiked. I tried to stay calm. "Aaron, I need to go. This isn't cool." He looked genuinely hurt. "Why are you acting like this? I made you breakfast. I let you sleep in my bed. I treated you like someone important." I stepped back. "Where are my keys?" He didn't answer. Instead, he said softly, "You're just like the others. You make me feel something, then you leave. But this time, I want it to be different." I grabbed my purse, headed toward the door. He didn't stop me physically, just watched. When I reached for the knob, he said, "If you leave now, I'll tell the cops you stole something." I froze. That's when I realized how planned this all was. I felt the weight of the silence in the apartment, the lack of windows in the hallway, the fact that I hadn't told anyone where I'd gone last night. I was alone. No backup. No proof. I turned slowly. "What do you want?" He smiled. "Just stay. A little longer. Let me make lunch. We'll talk. You can leave this evening." I said nothing. Just nodded. Sat down on the couch again. And waited. Around noon, he took a shower. Left his phone on the coffee table. I grabbed it. Texted my roommate from his number. "This is my name. I'm at 241 Hollowell. Please come. Bring help." I deleted the message. Put the phone back exactly where it was. 10 minutes later, I heard a knock on the door. Aaron stepped out of the bathroom, towel around his waist. He looked at me, then at the door. Then he unlocked it. My roommate stood there, wide-eyed. Behind her, a neighbor. Aaron smiled like nothing was wrong. "You left your purse," he said, handing it to me. My keys were inside. I didn't call the cops. I just left. I was too scared. We matched on a Sunday night. She messaged first. "You look like someone who wants to be ruined." Gently. I laughed. Asked if she always opened that strong. She said she didn't waste time with small talk. It's either chemistry or it's not. We chatted for a couple hours. She was quick-witted, intense, and a little cryptic. She asked what I was into, what I wasn't into, then told me bluntly. "I like control. I like marks. I like when people don't flinch." At first, I thought she was just doing the typical Tinder dom flirt. But there was a calmness to the way she said it, like she wasn't performing. We made plans to meet 2 nights later. Drinks at a quiet bar near her place. She looked even better in person. Black dress, tall boots, a stare that didn't blink when I spoke. The conversation was surprisingly normal, jobs, music, travel. But the tension was constant. She'd brush her fingers across my wrist when I reached for my drink. She'd lean in close when she laughed. At one point, she asked if I'd ever bled for someone. I thought she was joking. I said, "Not on purpose." She smiled, touched the side of my neck. "Maybe you just haven't met the right person yet." We ended up at her apartment. I'll keep this part vague, but you get the idea. It was intense. She was in control, commanding but calm. She asked for consent before anything unusual, and I agreed. I was curious, open, until I wasn't. At some point, she bit the inside of my shoulder. Not gently. I yelped. She didn't stop. I told her to slow down. She kissed the spot she bit and whispered, "It's just a memory. You'll thank me later." I didn't stop her. Not really. I froze. Afterward, she curled up behind me and whispered things I don't even remember. I couldn't sleep. I left quietly around 3 a.m. The next morning, I had a bruise the size of an apple on my shoulder. Deep purple. Broken skin. I could see the arc of her teeth. I texted her. "Hey, that bite was a little much. Really sore this morning." She replied, "Good. I liked how you tasted." I didn't respond. She didn't message again that day. The next few days were weird. I started having trouble focusing. The area where she bit me throbbed constantly like a phantom sensation. I'd catch myself touching it without realizing. I felt jumpy, restless. I thought about texting her again, asking what the hell that was all about. Then she texted me. "Still thinking about it?" I didn't reply. She sent another message a day later. "You think you're done? That's cute." I blocked her. 2 days later, I got a package at work. No return address. Inside was a small envelope, and inside that was a Polaroid. It was a photo of the bite mark. My shoulder. My skin. From behind. I never took that picture. I started feeling paranoid. I checked my apartment for cameras. Nothing. I asked my super if anyone had been inside. He said no. I started sleeping with the blinds closed and a chair wedged under the doorknob. My friends told me I was overreacting. "So she was a little intense," one of them said. "Block her and move on." But the thing is, I don't think she wanted me back. I think she just wanted to know she left something behind. A week later, I met someone new. A normal girl. Kind, funny, easy to be around. We hooked up after a few dates. She kissed my shoulder and paused. "What's this scar?" I looked in the mirror. The bite mark had faded, but the skin was still discolored. It was almost a brand now, faint, pale tissue that didn't match the rest of me. I said, "It's a long story." She didn't ask again. Sometimes I dream about Rema. Not in a sexy way. In the dream, I'm paralyzed. She's straddling my chest, whispering something I can't hear. Her eyes are closed. Her teeth are red. The room smells like metal. I always wake up sweating. I haven't dated anyone seriously since. So yeah, this isn't a ghost story. This isn't a crime. It was just one night with someone who didn't care what came next. She said she liked leaving marks. And she did. I don't know how to start this without sounding like I'm exaggerating. But I swear this really happened. Someone made a dating profile using my photos, my name, even my voice, and she was using it to meet people. To ruin me. I thought I got catfished once. Turns out I'm the one who's been doing the catfishing. It started when a guy named Eli messaged me on Instagram. I didn't recognize the name, but he seemed familiar. His message just said, "Hey, not cool disappearing after that night. Thought we had something." I replied, "Sorry, I think you've got the wrong person." He sent back a screenshot of a dating profile. It used my first name, my age, my pictures. Even one I'd never posted, just a selfie I took in my apartment mirror and deleted later. The bio said, "Looking for something real, or something that hurts good." I asked him what app it was from. He said it was called Crave. I'd never heard of it. I downloaded the app. It asked me to verify using a selfie and voice clip. I tried to register with my email and phone number. It said both were already in use. So I used a burner email. Got in. Searched my own name. There it was. My face. My photos. My voice. Except, it wasn't exactly me. The bio had changed. "I like to wear your skin while you sleep." I flagged the account and contacted support. They said the profile passed all verification steps, including a video call. I asked how that was possible. They didn't answer. I started getting weird DMs. Men saying they'd met me, that I'd been wild, that I'd said things I'd never say. Some were flirty. Others were angry. One guy called me a manipulative narcissist. I told him I had no idea who he was. He replied, "You wore that green dress. You had a scar on your left wrist. You told me you liked to be watched while you sleep. I do have a scar on my wrist. It's small, faint, only visible up close." I checked my apartment for cameras that night. Found nothing, but I didn't sleep. A week later, I actually matched with someone on Hinge. A guy named Luca. Seemed normal. We chatted a bit, made plans for coffee. I showed up at the cafe. He was already there. He looked up and froze. His face twisted into something between shock and disgust. He said, "You've got to be kidding me." I asked what was wrong. He pulled out his phone. Showed me a message thread. It was from me. Same photos. Same name. I'd apparently told him I was into humiliation. That I liked to ruin good men. I said, "That's not me." He laughed. "You're literally sitting in front of me." Then he walked out. I sat there for 10 minutes, staring at the empty chair. My hands were shaking. I called my best friend, told her everything. She thought it was a scam, said I should go to the police. So I did, filed a report. The officer was polite but clearly skeptical. Said unless money was involved or threats were made, there wasn't much they could do. I asked if I could at least get the IP address behind the fake account. He said, "That's not how it works." I stopped using dating apps. Deleted everything. Then 2 nights later, I got a knock at my door at 11:43 p.m. I live alone. I didn't answer. Then I heard a voice. A woman's. She said, "You're wearing my face." I didn't move. She said it again, louder this time. "You're wearing my face." I looked through the peephole. No one was there. The next morning, I found something under my doormat. It was a Polaroid. Of me. Sleeping. I was curled up in bed, wearing the same t-shirt I'd worn that night. The same quilt. Same position. The photo had a timestamp in the corner. 2:12 a.m. I checked every lock. Every window. Everything was still locked. I deactivated all my accounts. Started using cash only. Got a new phone. New number. New email. I thought I'd gotten away from her. Until yesterday. I got an email from a burner address. Subject line. I made another version of you. Attached was a screenshot. It was a new profile. Same face. Same smile. But the name was different. My middle name. I met Micah on Bumble. He was charming, funny, and had the kind of quiet confidence that made me feel safe. Not cocky, just present. Like he actually paid attention. We dated for a few weeks before I stayed the night at his apartment. It was cozy, clean, with framed art and tea towels that weren't stained. Impressive for a single guy. Only one thing felt off. The second bedroom. It was always closed. He said it was just storage, that his ex left behind a lot of stuff when she moved out. I didn't push it. We just started seeing each other. But the door was always locked. The first time I noticed something strange, I was in the bathroom. There was a toothbrush in the cup by the sink, pink. Not mine. I asked about it. He shrugged. Must be hers. I thought I tossed all that stuff. That night, I found a long blonde hair on his pillow. I have dark hair. A few days later, I stayed over again. In the middle of the night, I got up to get water. As I passed the hallway, I heard something from behind the closed door. Breathing. Not loud. Just shallow, steady breath. Like someone asleep. I froze. Micah was snoring in bed. The breathing continued. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, I asked him directly, "Is she still living here?" He looked genuinely confused. "What? No. She moved out 6 months ago." "Why would you ask that?" I told him what I heard. He laughed. "Old pipes. This place makes weird sounds." He kissed my forehead and made pancakes. I wanted to believe him. I really did. That evening, while he was in the shower, I tried the door. Still locked. But this time I noticed something. The doorknob had smudges. Fresh ones. As if it had been turned from the inside. The last time I went over, I brought a friend. Told her to wait outside, just in case. I told Micah I forgot my charger in his bedroom and went to grab it. Instead, I used a bobby pin to jimmy the lock. The door opened. The room was dark. Cold. Neatly made bed. Curtains drawn. And sitting on the edge of the bed was a woman. Still. Eyes open. She didn't look at me. Didn't blink. Just sat there. Like she'd been waiting. I closed the door, walked out, and never went back. Micah still texts me sometimes. He always ends the messages the same way. "She asks about you.